To begin the active warm-up, you want 3 to 5 minutes of cardiovascular activity to get the heart rate elevated. This can include, but is not limited to, jump rope, push-ups, squats, biking, and/or jogging. With the squat progressions, you will pick 1 to 2 of the following. Coaching points for the bodyweight squat are to drive your hips back, making sure to fire your glutes as you stand up. Not allowing your knees to drop in or shoot too far forward, keeping them at least over the instep. Keeping a nice tall chest and head upright. Coaching cues for the heel elevated active foot squat are the same as the bodyweight squat. Main points of interest here are to not allow your knees to shoot too far forward, getting too much shear, and keeping that active foot the entire time. In the quarter plus full squat, your coaching points are the same. You will do a quarter squat, back up, down into another full squat, and firing your hips fast, driving up. Finally, with the tempo squats, you are driving your hips back, following all of the same coaching cues as prior. You will go on the eccentric or the down position for about 5 seconds down, driving your hips up fast into the concentric or up position. Coaching points for the dead bug position are keeping a neutral spine, keeping your head down on the ground. You will also fire your trunk or your core abdominal muscles, pulling that bottom rib down. You will also fire your glute on extension of your hip and keep both toes pulled up towards your chin. Coaching points for the inchworm walkout are similar to the dead bug. You will squeeze your butt on full extension, as well as keeping the core or trunk tight, pulling that bottom rib down. You will also make sure to hold for about 3 to 5 seconds on each rep. In the star side plank, you want to draw that rib down, squeeze your butt, keeping your trunk in a solid, tight position. In the side plank rotation, you want to follow the same coaching points and keeping that trunk nice and tight, pulling the rib down, squeezing your butt. In the rotation, you don't want to rotate your hips, keeping your upper body moving. In the Copenhagen side plank position, with adduction, you are keeping the rib pulled down, trunk tight, and squeezing your glutes. With both clamshell variations, you will keep your knees and your hips at 90 degrees. You will keep your feet stacked, firing your glute, opening your knees. With this variation, you are using a wall to not allow your pelvis to roll. With the second variation, you use your hand when a wall is not available. This allows you to fire your glute and not roll your pelvis. With the fire hydrant movement, you are doing the same motion but in a prone position. The biggest point of interest here is to not allow your pelvis to roll, keeping a nice flat back. With any of the hip direction movements, you will make sure to fire your core, drawing that rib down. With any of the banded movements, you can use a super band or a TheraBand coming from the Justin Sports Medicine trailer. With any of the lateral banded walk variations, you're making certain to keep a neutral spine, ear over your shoulder, shoulder over your hips. You draw down on that rib, firing the core. You will also squeeze your glutes as you abduct or sidestep. With any of the variations, I want to make sure that I am keeping my leg straight and not allowing for a bend or squat. With the knee banded or hip circle variation, you can use a hip circle, a TheraBand tied together in a circle, or a mini band. You can also use a progression of this exercise by putting the band around your ankles. With the forward and backward hip circle walk, most of the coaching points are the same. You want to make sure your pelvis is in that neutral position by pulling your rib down and firing your core, squeezing your butt. In the forward walk, you will go forward and out with the feet. And with the backwards walk, you will push back and out into that 45-degree plane. With both movements of the Romanian deadlift, your coaching cues will be the same. You will have a nice neutral spine, not allowing your head to go into a flexion or extension position. You will drive your hips back, keeping a nice flat back with a slight bend in the knee. You will go slow on the eccentric portion and fast on the concentric or up portion. With the banded RDL, you will be doing the same with resistance. With the iron cross or the seesaw walk, you want to keep the spine in that neutral position, pulling that rib down, firing the core, loading up the hamstring on the down leg, keeping your body as straight as possible, firing the glute, and keeping your toe pulled to your chin. Both of the hip bridge progressions will follow very similar with the dead bug. You will pull your rib down, firing your core, keeping your spine in a nice neutral position with your head on the ground. You will fire your glutes, picking your hips up off of the ground. You will do the same with single leg progression, only using one leg, holding the other leg up at a straight to semi-straight position. Due to many of our rodeo athletes having the anterior hip pain and impingement, we never recommend lunge positions that allow the knee to drop in and or the hip to internally rotate. We try to recommend the wide lunge stance, keeping that wider position and never allowing that internal rotation and impingement position. With all of the shoulder warm-ups, the biggest points of coaching will be keeping the scapulas pulled down and back, making sure to have a great posture with a neutral spine, ear over shoulder. With the banded pull-aparts, you will not only pull the shoulder blades or scapulas down and back, you will also squeeze them, pulling them together in the back on each repetition. With the world's greatest stretch, we want to see that nice neutral spine. We want to see pulling the rib down, firing the core and trunk, making sure to keep a neutral pelvis. As you come up with hip flexion, making sure to get more external rotation and not internal rotation flexion drop. With the rotation, you're making sure to segmentally rotate, getting that little bit of range of motion and movement of your thoracic spine.